In this example, we're going to find the equation of the ellipse with vertices given at -4, 1 and -4, -5, and one of the focus points is at -4, 0. So, of course, the first thing to remember is that the standard form for an ellipse is given by x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1, where h and k is our center, and a and b are the distance from the center up and down for the b along the y-axis and left and right along for the a along the x-axis. Also, the focus distance from the center to the focus is given by the formula c squared equals, depending on which is bigger, a squared minus b squared, or b squared minus a squared. We don't want our c to be the square root of a negative number, so whether a is bigger or b is bigger, that'll dictate which one of these we choose. So I think the first thing that I would like to do is draw a picture of what's going on. Okay, so we have vertices at x equals -1, 2, 3, 4, and y equals 1. There's one vertex, and at x equals -4, and y is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -5. And we know that one focus point is here at -4, 0. And then there's another point down here, another focus down here that we don't know where it is. Okay, but we know a lot of information. So I don't know what the graph exactly looks like, but I know it's something something like that. What an ugly ellipse I just drew. Okay, so the first thing that I think we should find is the center. And what we need to remember is that the center in this case will be the middle point between the vertices. So between this vertex and this vertex, if we find halfway, the center should be in there. Ooh, what a great opportunity to practice our midpoint formula. Okay, so I'm going to make this focus information go away so we can work on the midpoint first. So remember, the midpoint between 2 points is kind of like the average. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So for us, if we're finding the midpoint between our two vertices, and that's going to be the center, that'll be -4 plus -4 over 2. And let's see, the y values are 1 plus -5 over 2. So that will give us -8 over 2 is -4. And -4 over 2 is -2. So our center must be at -4, -2. Oh, that's awesome. Now we can plug that information into this formula for the beginning of our ellipse. So this would be our h and our k. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in, clean up this a little bit, and then we'll find the a squared and the b squared. Great. So our center, we just found out, was at -4, -2. So now plugging that in for our h and our k, we're going to get x minus -4, and then all squared, over a squared. Oh, my negative isn't very good there. There we go. And then y minus -2 all squared over b squared equals 1. So that will give us x plus 4 squared over a squared and y plus 2 squared over b squared equals 1. Now I just need to find a and b. One of those values is really easy to find, and that would be our b value, our up and down value from the center. So the b value, remember, is the distance from, let's see, what color have I not used yet? Let's go for purple. The b value is the center from a vertex, is the distance, from a vertex to the center, because it's going in the up and down direction. So our b value would be the distance between the center and one of the vertices. Now, you are totally welcome to count here. That's perfectly fine. There's 1, 2, 3, but let's figure it out instead. What was it, -2? Yes. Okay, so that would be the distance. It would be the square root of, let's see, x2 minus x1. So we're finding the distance between the 2 points 4, -2, and let's do -4, -2 rather, and -4, 1. So it would be -4 minus -4 squared, -2 minus 1 squared. Whoops, forgot a parenthesis. -4 minus -4 is 0. So this is great. We have the square root of 0. Let's see, -2 minus 1 is -3. And when we square that, we get 9. So the square root of 9 gives us 3. Totally get we could have counted. Perfectly fine to count. 1, 2, 3. But good practice for the distance formula. So remember, this was our b. So now we know, in addition to all this other information, that our b is 3. Okay, so let me clean this up and plug that information in. Much better. Okay, so our center was -4, -2. Our b is now 3, so I know I have x plus 4 squared over a squared, y plus 2 squared over 3 squared, which is 9. Now I just need to find a. Now the only piece of information I haven't used yet is that the focus point, one of our foci, is at -4, 0. So this point I have here in red is at, one of them is at -4, 0. Now remember, we have this formula for finding the distance from the focus to a vertex. I'm sorry, from the focus to a center point. So that was c squared equals a squared minus b squared, or c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And remember, the c was the distance from the center. That's a little c. I'll call this c to be more clear. The blue c, I'll call this the center. And this little red c is the distance from the center to the focus. So we know that that is, if we're going from -4, -2 to -4, 0, you can do the distance formula all over again, or you can just count. It's 1, 2 units up because the x's don't change and the y's are going -2 to 0. So our c is clearly 2. So then I can plug this in. Whoops, and I wrote that wrong, didn't I? It's a squared minus b squared, or it's b squared minus a squared. I'm thinking hyperbolas. B squared minus a squared. So we have 2 squared equals, let's see, our b is 3. So 3 squared minus a squared, and we'll solve for a. So now watch what happens. I did this on purpose. If we pick, quote, the wrong value or formula for our c, we have 4 equals 9 minus a squared, which is going to give us, subtracting 9 from both sides, -5 equals -a squared. Actually, this is going to be perfectly okay, right? Divide both sides by -1, and we have a squared equals 5. So if we had chosen incorrectly, say we did a squared minus 3 squared, this one, instead of this one, no worries. We would have been able to tell pretty quickly because this would have been a -5, and when we take the square root of both sides, that would have been a problem. As it turns out, we chose correctly. It's a +5. So we know that a squared, or a, is equal to the square root of 5. Or a squared itself is just 5. And that we can plug in here. So our final answer is x plus 4 squared over 5. That was a squared. Y plus 2 squared over 9, that's b squared, equals 1.